I'm back very, very soon, sooner than I expected to be. But today we received big news that the NFL will appeal Deshaun Watson's 6-game suspension. So let's talk about what that means. What is the appeal? So I'll tell you what the appeal is, and then you tell me how you think it's going to go. The NFL, the way the appeal works, according to the CBA, is there will be no new evidence, nothing heard, nothing, no testimony, nothing. The NFL, Roger Goodell or his designee, so Roger Goodell or one of his underlings, will hear the appeal. Then, based on no new information at all, they'll rule based on the facts that the judge handed down, the same facts that the NFL made their case for a year suspension. Now, let's review the reality. The NFL will not hear any new evidence. There will be no evidence presented. There's no arguments, nothing. The NFL essentially just takes what the judge, the statement that the judge made, Judge Robinson, and then they'll rule. They rule then. Who do you think they're going to rule in favor of? Who do you think they're going to rule in favor of themselves? They're going to rule in favor of themselves because there's no evidence presented in this hearing. Essentially, the commissioner can just do whatever he wants, and they will likely rule. I think it'll be somewhere between 12 games is the minimum. I think if they offered Deshaun Watson 12 games, and I think to just not have any of this process, get it over with and be done. They went through all of it. And generally those, from the criminal system, those who plead guilty or those who settle end up with lesser punishments than those who don't. So I think the punishment possibility begins at 12 games. I think 12 games is the minimum. And I think the maximum is what the NFL originally wanted, which is a year in an indefinite suspension with the opportunity to reapply for reinstatement after a year, which is the Calvin Ridley suspension length. That's what that is. So I think it's somewhere between 12 games and a year. Now, then the question is, there's a few questions. One, does Deshaun Watson sue? Now, if you looked on Twitter, Adam Schefter posted certain language about the CBA, and I can grab that for you. But it says personal conduct policy states that the appeal will be processed on an expedited basis, and the commissioner or his designee may overturn, reduce, modify, or increase the discipline previously issued, and it will be final and binding on all parties. So that's it. That is in the collective bargaining agreement, Article 46. Article 46 of the collective bargaining agreement says that this decision, this appeal, if the NFL exercises their right, and I said on Monday, you don't put a right in the CBA that you have to exercise if you do not plan to exercise that right. The NFL has the right to this appeal, and of course, as I said, they're now exercising that right. Watson has no case in a federal court. There's no case. He has no case. The CBA was signed by the union. They agreed to it. They agreed to this process. They agreed that after the initial decision, Roger Goodell or his designee, which is going to be an employee of Roger Goodell, can make a decision, and that decision is final. And that's it. They agreed to it. Now, you might say that process sounds unfair. That process sounds ridiculous. That process sounds silly. It really makes no sense. Why have an independent arbitrator in the first place? But I'm not the NFLPA's lawyers. I'm not the NFLPA who signed this dumb agreement. And there's actually a lot of things in this agreement. Remember, this agreement was signed at the start of the pandemic. They signed a 10-year agreement with no opt-outs. They got bent over backwards in this agreement and signed away a historic amount of money over 10 years because they were under pressure during the pandemic. And it was a very close vote. It was like 52% of players voted in favor. Very close vote. And essentially they got bent over backwards, backed into a corner, and signed this CBA. But none of that's going to matter when you take the case to federal court. when you take the case to federal court, the judge and we're going to hear the case, and they're going to read Article 46, like I just read to you. It says very clearly that the decision is final, and that the NFL has every right to, based on the facts, not make up new facts, and the facts of Judge Robinson are damning. They say it's the most egregious, unprecedented conduct by Watson. So I think they have a strong case to impose 17 games. And I don't think Watson has really much of a legal case. So he can sue, but he won't win. He won't win that lawsuit. And if he sues, he puts the more guaranteed money so if he's suspended for this year, he loses $1 million. But if he's suspended for next year, he loses a potential $46 million. So he has an extreme financial incentive to accept this suspension and not challenge it in court. Not to mention that it is possible that the NFL also has another option. If the court issues an injunction, the NFL could decide to be especially vindictive and put Deshaun Watson on the commissioner's exempt list. They could say, we imposed a year suspension on you. You decided, even though there's a signed collective bargaining agreement between you, the union, and us, you decided to take us to court. We'll still pay you, but we will put you on the commissioner's exempt list because we want to impose our suspension now. We want to impose the suspension now. We will take punitive action against you for not accepting this suspension, even though the CBA clearly says that we have the right to impose this suspension. So I think Watson will just end up accepting it. He really doesn't have a case. There's no case. All right. Let's see. How do we feel about Hollywood Brown? I mean, he was arrested for speeding. I don't anticipate that to be anything. So he is what he is before. Well, I mean, let's see. Well, let's wait to applaud Roger Goodell. He did step one. Step one is done. He appealed the ruling. That's something. A step in the right direction. He actually did something correctly. Now let's see how he rules. I also said yesterday that the NFL should fire Judge Robinson. She's already served her 2-year term. And I think that they're already appealing the first ruling she made. They don't like it. They already appealed her first ruling. So I think that they should fire the judge and replace her with someone else because she clearly doesn't understand what kind of ruling needed to be made. So I think they're going to exercise their other right in the CBA. After 2 years, both sides have the right to fire the judge with 120 days notice. And they'll have to go through a process of replacing her with someone else. But I think that this will be the only case that she hears. All right. The last CBA is still screwing the players? Absolutely. Absolutely. The deal was terrible. I mean, we knew it at the time, but they had no choice. It was in the middle of a pandemic. The possibility of having a work stoppage then or labor strife then was really, really untenable. Baseball's never recovered from what they did during the pandemic. They fought over money. They've never recovered from that. So they were essentially, the NFLPA had no leverage. The NFL had all the leverage, and they were backed into a corner, and they had to accept clauses. And, usually I'm pro players. Usually I'm pro player power, pro union, pro, against the NFL and the way that they do things. And, this is just one of the things that was put in there, but it's working in the favor of what I want in this case because it's allowing discipline to be imposed. But realistically, this process is highly unfair. But the NFLPA agreed to it. So they agreed to it. They signed the contract. So it is what it is. They're stuck with it, even though it's unfair. So now Watson should have just accepted the 12 games. He should have accepted the 12 games, but now he's going to pay, a hefty price. He's going to pay a hefty price because the discipline is now in the hands of Roger Goodell, who is not happy. He's not happy about Judge Robinson's decision. He's not happy that Deshaun Watson has tarnished the shield and has taken attention away from training camp, away from the coming season. I don't think he's so happy about that. And we know that there are sources. I think Judy Batista said, she said that there are sources in the NFL. Her source says that they will appeal. They will go for the full year. And since they're appealing to themselves and they're judge, jury, and executioner, if they're judge, jury, and executioner, I don't see why if they want the full year, they won't get the full year. They will get the full year. So, you know, the NFLPA will can sue in federal court if they want. But, you know, good luck. They have no case. So they have no case at all. Now that we've talked about the legal situation, what's going on, let's talk about I will take us to fantasy football. So let's say for the sake of, to me, 12 games a year is basically the same. If it's 12 games, you're not drafting Deshaun Watson. You're not, you're treating 12 games as if it's the whole year, essentially. So, more or less, I think it'll be somewhere between 12 games in a year. It could be 14 games. I don't know how many games it's going to be, but I do think it'll be an indefinite component. I think if it's 12, it'll be 12 indefinite with opportunity to reapply after 12, not 12 straight. But anyway, let's talk about, the situation. So if let's say it's a year, then do you think the Browns proceed with a year of Jacoby Brissett, or do they go for Jimmy Garoppolo? If it's a year, I think they try. I think there are better options out there than Jacoby Brissett. There's Jimmy Garoppolo, who I think is the best option. Gardner Minshew could be available. I think he's better than Jacoby Brissett. And then who else is really? Yeah, I mean, there's no one else really that's available that's a clear upgrade. But Jimmy Garoppolo and Gardner Minshew are the two out there that I would say are clearly upgrades over Jacoby Brissett. Gardner Minshew's not that much of an upgrade, but I do think he's better. So those are players that they could target. I mean, honestly, like Teddy Bridgewater on the Dolphins is significantly better than Jacoby Brissett. So, they have options. But if it's, I don't know. I don't know if they do anything about it. It's tough. They have such a good team, but you're not going to win anything with Jacoby Brissett. Of course, if there's no Watson, Amari Cooper is dead in the water. I mean, everybody is dead in the water. The whole offense is dead in the water. You'll still be able to play Chubb. Amari Cooper will be with Brissett as like a wide receiver 4. If it's a whole season of Brissett, I mean, Amari Cooper. Right now, I have Amari Cooper for redraft slotted in at 30. If I knew it was Brissett if I knew it wasn't Watson, he would be, 30 sounds about right if I knew I had a whole season of Garoppolo. If I had a whole season of Brissett, I think he'd be around 30, somewhere 35 to 40. Not high. Yeah. Who would I really rather? Hunter Renfrow or Amari Cooper? That stage with Brissett, it's close. It'd be 35 or so. And then Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb don't move too much, but they'll move a little bit. But yeah, I mostly just want to address the fact that I just feel like people were so sure that there was going to be no appeal. And I thought that given the amount of publicity surrounding this case, that there was no way that the NFL could leave the discipline in place as it was. I thought they had to appeal. They made the right choice. And since they're appealing to themselves, I think it's just, again, I think the universe of punishments is between 12 games and a year indefinite suspension with the opportunity to apply after a year. I think that's the universe of 12 games to indefinite with, ability to apply after the year. That's the range of outcomes. And I would, given what I'm hearing over the last few hours, it seems like it's going to be the year. So it's going to be the year. So anyway, I think that's a good, we still don't have like a final answer, but the appeal is supposed to be expedited. This is not going to take very long. The LPA has 2 days to respond to the complaint or appeal in this case. And then Goodell or his designee will hear the case over the next 5 days. So this will play out by next Friday. We will know. So I would say by the 12th, we have a final answer. So by the time we have regular redraft season, you're going to know exactly how many games Deshaun Watson is missing. Now, then there's a possibility that he sues, but let's see what happens there. But anyway, for now, I just want to thank everyone for watching. Make sure to like the video, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel, hit the notifications bell. Additionally, you can leave a super chat or a super sticker. The channel is now monetized. There's ads, but super chat and super sticker if you want. Additionally, there's a channel membership option. Right now, all it offers is just priority comments. You'll stick out in my comments. You'll get shout outs on the show. You'll have a special channel member tag and all that. So just like get excited for that. I will probably expand the channel memberships program over time. But for now, $2.99 a month just gets you shout outs, just a way to support me. Think of it as a tip jar for my YouTube specifically. And once I pay back the money for the StreamYard, I'm going to split that with Ryan and Conan. So it's a way to support all of us. So, whereas the Patreon is only me. So just keep that in mind when you're supporting the YouTube channel. You're supporting all people who appear on the YouTube channel. We'll have a way of splitting that money between people who appear on the YouTube channel. So just be aware of that. And the difference is, if you want to support all of us, this is the place to do it. All the rest of everything else is only the Patreon is only goes to me. The Twitter stuff, the Twitter super follows and Twitter tip jar is only me. So just keep that distinction in mind. And it would be nice to have someone here to help support Ryan and Conan as well. Anyway, I appreciate everyone for watching and listening and all that. And I will see you all next time. Peace.